Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with another video in our React series, and in this one we're going to talk about styling and forms. So first, just a quick point of how would you style these React components. You could just use a normal CSS file. If you did that, you could put classes, but you'd have to put classes with special naming. Okay, so you'd have to be like, let's see here. Like if I want to style this particular div here, I would put class name equals the class. The reason you have to do that is because class is a reserved word in JavaScript. So it'll mess things up. Okay, and one thing I forgot to mention when we mapped over here is when we map something, you have to put a key property. Okay, so what I forgot to do here is what we should do is do post index, so this should be wrapped into parentheses. So that means you have the post and you have the array index of the post, and you want to make this key here equal index. So that way every item has a unique index and it doesn't complain. Nope. Let me think about that. That's fine, I just have an extra arrow here for some reason. Okay, so that's the only thing we can remember, that the parent element of your array of JSX is key. The other thing you can do as far as styling goes, other than just using class name, and this is just what you can do right out of the box. There's a bunch of libraries like styled components, and then if you have like a Webpack build, you can create special CSS style sheets for each component, but that requires like a little bit more setup, and the point of this tutorial is to show you how to do what you can do with not so much setup. So what you could also do is you could do something like this. You could do style, then you just do 2 curly brackets, because the inside one is as an object, and then you can do things like, and then basically pass in the CSS properties as key value pairs in the object. So it'd be style equals, and then we'll say color red. Okay, and then we'll see that this H1 here turns red. So let's go back over here and see that one turned red. Okay, so those are different ways you can style the component. Okay, now let's create a form component so we can see how we can work with forms. So form. Okay, let me just sketch out the basic function. Const form equals props. Cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out what we're showing on here. We don't need these other components for now. We just want to show the form. So I don't have to delete the components. I just show what I want to show. Cool. Neato. Okay. So what we want to do is return a couple elements. So return. We'll just actually use a form tag as our parent element. Okay, and in that we're going to have a input of type text with the name, and the name, what should we call this field? This will be the name of the person. So the name field is going to be called name. Okay, and that we'll leave it at that for now. Then we're gonna have another one. That's going to be number. And then we're gonna have another one. That's a submit button. And again, this needs to be age, because this doesn't represent the age of a person. Cool. And then this will be a submit button. So this does not need a name, but it does need a value. Value equals submit. So let's see if our form is rendering fine. See, there's our form. Wonderful. Right now, great, I can use it, but it doesn't really do anything for me. For it to work, I need to bind it to some state. Okay, so I need to create some state. So usually what I do is we create one piece of state for to represent the whole of the form data. So const form data, set form data. You can call these whatever you want. React.use state, and then we're going to do an empty object, and I'm going to start each form with an empty string. So name is going to have an empty string. Age is going to have an empty string, or is the number 0. Cool. And now I need to bind these form fields to that. So value for this form field is going to be basically form data dot name. It's bound to that variable. Here, value equals form data dot age. Okay. Now, here's the one thing about React. React is one-way data flow. It's only one-way data binding. So this will send data here, but this won't send data there. It's not Angular or Vue where you have two-way data binding with forms, where if you update the form, it updates the variable. If you update the variable, it updates the form. Here, if this gets updated, then the form updates. So watch what happens. If I try to type in the form now, it won't let me, because the minute I type in there, again, it's bound to that variable, and that variable isn't changing. So what I need to do is make it wherever I do a keystroke, whenever I change what's in the box, that it updates the state, so that way the state then tells the form to show the new value. Okay, it's just one of the kind of more annoying things in React. It's one of the times where like I enjoy the Angular and Vue way of doing it better. Otherwise, I generally like the React way of doing things. Cool. So how do we do that? We have to create a function. So we'll call it handle change. Is usually the convention. Const handle change equals, and you can pretty much make the same function every single time. The same function should handle pretty much all forms. So the way it works is you do event. Okay, and basically what you're doing is you're just saying that set form data. Okay, we're using our set form data function, and again we have to pass in a new object. Okay, and we're gonna, in that object is gonna be the current form data, because we want to make sure we update it. Because if we just pass in a new object without all the fields from our existing form data, it'll just erase those fields. It's just gonna replace. It just does a swap. Just whatever I pass in the set form data, it just swaps the existing form data with that. So I want to make sure that all the individual properties are in there, but I also want to make sure I update the property. So I do form data square brackets, because I don't know which field we're updating per se. So what I'm going to do, I want to just first grab a variable, const name, or we'll just say field equals event dot target dot name. That's going to grab the name property of the field. Okay. And then that string is used to determine which which property we're updating in the object. And what we're updating it with is event.target.value. Okay, which is the value of the form. Okay, it's giving me a little bit of a little red here. Let's see why. Form data. Oh, did I not put a comma there? No, that's right. Form data. Oh no, I see. This doesn't need to be here. I'm just updating the field event.target.value. So that's literally the function. You can use this function pretty much. You don't need to really do anything to innovate on this. The only thing you can do to make this even a little more clear is just maybe make a variable called value, const value equals event.target.value. Okay, and make maybe even a little clearer, we'll make this key. So this is the key that we're updating, and we're updating it with the value from the form. Okay, so you can kind of see what's a little clearly what's kind of we're doing with this function, but that's literally the way you kind of always set it up. Okay, so now when I type in the form, oh, actually no, I forgot one step. We made the function, we have to actually attach the function to these things. So it has to be on change equals handle change. And then I can just copy that right over to the other one. Copy. Okay, now both of these have the handle change function. So now that should work. So now I can type in the field again. There you go. Now if I go to form, take a look at the form data, take a look over here, you'll see that as I type in the form, it should update. See? And if I empty that out, okay, because it's running that function every time I type in there, keeping the state up to date. So now when I use the submit function, so let's create a function for submitting, handle submit, okay, const handle submit equals event and then all we're going to do here is just console.log form data. Although we'll probably run into another problem, which we'll deal with in a second. Cool. And then we just have to add that function here. So it would be on submit equals handle submit. So when we hit submit on the form, it's going to trigger that function. And every time we type in the form, it triggers that function. So I'll type some stuff in here. And then I'll put a number here. And you can see that our state has updated. Now let's go to the console. Let me hit submit. And see it disappeared after a flash second. That's because forms naturally have a behavior to refresh the page. So we need to stop that from happening. So we have to do event. And again, this event object that's being passed in is a standard JavaScript thing. Every time there's like some sort of DOM event, whether it's clicking a button, changing, an event gets passed into whatever function it triggers. And the event has some functions you can use, it has some information you can use about the thing you clicked on, and so that's what we've been leveraging. So event.prevent default is what I need. Prevent default. And what this does, it prevents the default behavior of the browser, so it'll prevent that refreshing of the page when I hit the submit button. Okay, so I do yada 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 yada. Yada 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 yada. Then I hit submit. And there we go. So you see it gets console log there, so theoretically I could take that form data, make my API calls, my post requests, do whatever I want from there. So that's kind of how you would do forms in React. And as we mentioned earlier, you could also do styling by using class name instead of classes. And then also just putting in that style object within a properties key. So you can do what that's referred to as inline styling versus using style sheets. Either way is fine. But just so you know what they are. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day and enjoy.